there, folks. I'm Jenny Lay-Flurrie. It is an honor to be with you this morning here in Seattle or whatever time zone you are in. I'm a white female wearing my brown fluffy jumper, sitting in my Redmond office here at Microsoft with a nice sofa behind me and rain outside the window, which will surprise you for those that know Seattle. I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about the ecosystem of accessibility. It was tough for me to figure out what would be the right thing to bring to this amazing forum, but I figured one of the most valuable things would be to share some of our learnings. So I'm going to set some quick context and then walk you through some of the nuggets of joy and not so joy that we've learned over the years as we all path forward on this journey of accessibility and inclusion. So first, a little bit of context and a little bit on our history here. Some of you may know way more about every single nugget of joy that I'm going to share, but just to give you a couple of the details of where accessibility has been at Microsoft. So Microsoft is 46 years old, almost 47. It started in 1975. Where did accessibility begin? Well, it really began in the 90s in two areas. One, that's when employees with disabilities were coalescing. The first three groups, one, Huddle, our deaf, hard of hearing community, our ADD community, and our VIP community, visually impaired persons. Yes, I know language changes, but man, it's a cool acronym. And the other was really the technical embedment of accessibility into engineering processes. Our first feature, sticky keys, which some of you may know and maybe use still today. Or if you hit enter too many times, it may come up. Irritatingly or not, it's still important. We've evolved a lot over those times, but I would say in the next 20 years, accessibility remained as two separate disciplines. Employees coalescing and the accessible nerdery folks really coalescing. That started to change. And it started to change for a couple of reasons. And in 2016, we took the really big step to combine them. I came into this journey 2005. I came to work here on Hotmail, and I've been here now for 17 years. I came in not truly identifying the true extent of my deafness. I am profoundly deaf and I do not hear speech, and I'm using a sign language interpreter. And I quickly joined the deaf group. I then joined every other group I could find. There were 6 groups at the time, and built the disability ERG. I basically stalked and learned from those groups for many, many years, ultimately moving into accessibility full time. And then at the end of 2015, 2016, moving in to be the CAO. The shift that we've taken in that time has really been one fundamental thing, moving to view accessibility as more than a technical discipline, but as building an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is holistic and drives accessibility at Microsoft today. It was a big bet at the time and quite a risk, but I will tell you that it was based in everything that you guys know. The disability demographic is big. I'm not going to sit here and preach the numbers to you because you all are here because you know them. But I will tell you that that disability demographic is changing and growing. That 1 billion number that I think we all quote from the World Health Organization dates back to 2010. And there's been a few things that, might be changing with the last 2 years being one, well, fuel to the fire. What that's done is really grown the density of our disability base, the customers that are going to be using the technology that we build. And I think we're in an incredible ramp period. I don't say that in a good way. I say that in a bad way because I think it's growing the disability divide. And when you look at the propensity of long COVID, mental health, non-apparent disabilities, and you look at the design opportunity to design on a temporary, situational, permanent basis, you've really got an accelerated catalyst need for accessibility. That's why last year we upped our game again to really go after a bigger goal, which was to bridge the disability divide. This is a technology-led strategy to really get after and see how we can start to ebb and have an impact on areas like employment and education. Some of that was built on, again, what you guys are already seeing, which is that accessibility is evolving right now. If you go back in the history books, assistive technology, canes, hearing aids, wheelchairs, braille readers, has evolved. And the density and propensity of digital accessibility just right here in everything that you're using, whatever device you're using, is just at our fingertips. Yet it's still not evolved to the degree where people have it, use it, and know it, and feel confident in how they're doing that. So we've got a lot of opportunity ahead. But I think if you're going to accelerate, which is what we need to do right now, then you have to wallow a little bit in what's working and what can you lean on as you go forward. So I'll share a little bit about how we are doing that, and then some of the learnings that I definitely had along the way. Some of how we're doing it is firstly trying to put a model in that is all-encompassing and works at scale. Every company that you're a part of or you work with has a different model, and there is no right or wrong in any of your models. One of the common questions I get from some customers is, yeah, how do you do accessibility? Like, well, you gotta sit and wallow in who your company is, how you're architected, how you can be in the right and best place. Where we sit in a division called CELA, which is our Corporate External Legal Affairs Group. Microsoft is now well over 160, in fact, almost 180,000 people around the world. We sit in this group because it is all powerful. And most of my peers are doing societally grounded programs, whether that's racial justice, sustainability, privacy, security. We have a lot of nerds in this division. It's not just lawyers. And we are able to cover all disciplines. So my team has folks who are technical and engineers and developers, whether that's websites or working on key products and platforms. But I also have support. I have folks that work with our customers to help grow use and awareness of accessibility. I have folks that partner with the nonprofit sector. And internally, my group is nowhere near as important as the embedment of accessibility in every single team at Microsoft. So I have an accessibility leadership team that covers every discipline, whether that's procurement, marketing, engineering. That matters because it means I can scale. And we also measure and manage this like a business. Maturity model is one vehicle that we use. We built one based on actually a wicked, sorry, that's very 1980s of me, a level access maturity model. We combine that with a Carnegie Mellon. There's lots of them out there. And the wisdom of that accessibility leadership team, in fact, 64 people within Microsoft really leaned into that. That covers 8 different disciplines at Microsoft. It's not just about how are we technically meeting our goals. And one important note is that compliance is a level 3. Sustained compliance is not the goal. Innovation is the goal. If you go beyond that, I think the other significant thing is how we've really leaned in to grow hearts and minds. That's a phrase that when I sat down with our now CEO, Satya Nadella, he was actually the chair of our disability ERG, our sponsor of the ERG, sorry, I was the chair, he was the sponsor. He said, look, we've got to garner hearts and minds. And there's 3 areas that we found that really begin to do that. One is leading with people. If you think about an accessibility ecosystem, it's really built on one key thing. People with disabilities are the experts. They just are. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to have a disability to work here. No. Which, by the way, yeah, I'm purposefully flipping that. But you've got to view disability as a talent pool. You've got to view and empower it, not just hire it, but thrive it. And make sure that you've got an ecosystem that really vehemently supports it. And we've learned a lot along the way. I will say that these programs were intended to help us to grow representation of disability within Microsoft. But what the unintended consequence was how impactful that would be to our employees. When we launched the Autism Program in 2015, we did that because we saw this missed opportunity and this closed door to talent. We opened that and had 700 resumes within a couple of weeks. But what you may not know was the utter tidal wave that we fielded internally from parents and employees with autism that said, hang on a minute, you see this as a good thing? I'm in. It was really significant. The other big area that really garners hearts and minds, clearly the nerdery. And you know, we're a technical company. That's what's going to do it here. There's 3 examples even in the last 3 months that have just really motored and got people excited within the company to the point where they're then coming back with, hey, have you thought of X? Have you thought of Y? The 3 examples on the page, one is gaming and how we power inclusive, accessible gaming, probably one of the fastest growing, most needed areas of accessibility today because play is a human right. And it's got to be made more accessible. In the last couple of weeks, we added sign language, BSL and ASL to Forza as one example. The Surface Adaptive Kit, cool stickers. And I like stickers, as do my kids, but these are really powerful stickers. And what they are really doing is empowering blind mobility and many more. I have them on my Surface sitting right here to be able to use your device quickly, more productively, as is captioning and how you can pick up things like cloud services and AI. This is Peloton and how they picked up our captioning services that are used today in Teams that have grown 3,800% during the pandemic. But also, you've got to make sure that you educate. Every single employee at Microsoft has mandatory training on accessibility. And I think this is vital. We've outsourced that training. We've actually popped it online. And we've ripped out all the Microsoft jargon and 3-letter acronyms. There are several. We've ripped them out so that you can just grab this, build to it. It's baseline, folks. It starts with etiquette. It starts with how to empower people with disabilities and goes into the technical sides. So far, 160,000 people within the company have taken this. And every new employee is asked to take this training. And note that 1/3 of Microsoft is new right now. This is important. Whatever you may have learned in your previous career, you come to Microsoft, we're going to make sure that you have that foundation to the house so that we can leap from that and build the ecosystem. There's a lot more that I can share about ecosystem. Trust me, in 17 years, we've learned a few things, but I wanted to share a couple of lessons learned and trust that we ain't done, we ain't perfect, and we are on this journey alongside many of you. And so I kind of want to hear your lessons learned because I'd love to build some of this repository, but here's a few of mine. Firstly, the ROI trap. I purposefully use the word trap. If you ever hear this phrase, how many people are going to benefit from this feature? An alarm bell should start going off in your head. And I want to imagine like a Bugs Bunny scene where you're having to run off into the distance really quickly to avoid the terrible thing with a shotgun. It's a trap. Don't go there. That used to be the mentality. In our history books, when I go back, accessibility used to be treated as a sole technical discipline and prioritized based on the number of people that would benefit from X feature. It was one of the systematic reasons that we didn't get it right there for a couple of years. It's a pure trap. The conversation doesn't go there now, and if it does, we hit it really quickly. If you're going to drive an ecosystem, then it needs to be about inclusion and exclusion. It needs to be about the innovation opportunity. It needs to be about how you're opening doors for people, not closing them. It needs to be about how accessibility is the route to make sure that you are living into the mission of whatever company you're a part of. We're fortunate at Microsoft, the mission here is to empower every person, every organization to achieve more on the planet. That kind of, whenever I hear this, you find me quoting that back at people really hot, quickly, and fast. Avoid this trap. It will never get the prioritization that you need. Marathon and a sprint. Over the years, I've had several mails of, hey, we've gotten to compliant. We are done. No, you ain't. Congratulations on the work that you've done, but keep going. And I do remember teams several years ago came to me and said, wow, we've got so much work to do. I don't know if we can ever get there. Yes, you can. What you have to do is think about this as a maturity journey. You will achieve one key area, and then you prioritize and get after the next one. But this isn't something where suddenly you are good and golden and off to the races. Technology doesn't work like that. You make a website accessible today, it could be inaccessible by 5 o'clock this afternoon. It is an evolving gig, and you have to keep this motoring way beyond 26 miles. Advocacy fatigue. I can't help but linger a little bit on social media. I actually, I enjoy it. I have learned a lot from listening and learning and watching, whether it's email distribution groups or Twitter threads. I just want to thank you first for putting out all of your wisdom and advice, and know that I am gently, positively stalking you. But I'm also picking up on this thread, which is that people are tired. Inaccessibility, part of our gig is advocating for the needs and those closed doors that need bluntly, vehemently opening. That's tiring, particularly when you hear that I can't prioritize you today, or you're having to repeat the one-on-one material of why accessibility is important. No, it's not about the 1%, 4%, 50% that may benefit. It is about you making sure that you are delivering on not just a compliance goal, but an innovate. You're having to repeat that, and you find yourself saying it over and over again. And there are days where you feel like you've hit a brick wall. Know that that is part of being in this world, but I implore and encourage you all, myself included, kind of speaking to me, to make sure that you are also prioritizing your well-being. This is a marathon, not a sprint, and it's important and crucial to make sure that you sustain. And when you do get those victories, to lean into them, because they may garner those hearts and minds, and they may also give you that opportunity and platform to shoot off to the next stratosphere and to accelerate. I will tell you that some of our wins over the years, whether it's the adaptive controller, seeing AI, new technologies that have come out, we have celebrated internally those moments, and the people that have been behind them, often the hordes of people that have been behind them, because it's never one person. But then we've used those platforms internally to then say, great, look at what this team achieved. You can do this too. Hearts and minds help to power through advocacy fatigue and sustain that marathon. But in all of that, if there's one theme to it, it's that we really are absolutely and totally dependent on one another. The disability divide cannot be solved by one company. It cannot be solved by one team, one person, one effort, or one piece of nerdery. It has to be solved in an ecosystem, which is why within the accessibility industry, we don't compete. I feel very lucky to be part of a gang of CAOs, whether people have that title or not. And by the way, yes, I would like a lot more people to have that title, that we chat amongst ourselves on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We're sharing best practice. We're figuring out how to lift what's worked in one company and put it to another. So if I channel Sarah Hullinger from Apple for a minute, this is where she would quote, look, the work that we did on the Braille HID and those new standards that provide consistency across all of our platforms. We did that together. It actually started at CSUN several years ago and sprung from there. If I quote what we're doing with Google and how we're using Android on many of our platforms and how we're working with Google to make sure that we're raising the bar on accessibility, we're partnering with one another. Because if we're going to really tackle exclusion in this level, then we have to take this up. Which is why my last one, and maybe to end with a little bit of humility, it's really important to bring accessibility to the main stage. The picture I popped on the screen is actually from Saturday night. I went to New Orleans to spend time with a group called Team Gleason. And if you don't know Team Gleason, you are missing out. And New Orleans is one of the best, most amazing places on earth. They had an incredible gala to raise money for their effort to cure ALS, MND. The organizers didn't tell me the show flow. And they did that because they know that I get stage fright. We all do. And while I love talking and doing this kind of stuff, I'm human. So the picture is of my face walking on screen as I was introduced by Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker being a comedian. And let me just say my bingo card never had, being New Orleans, following like ridiculous bands like Macklemore and Lord Huron and being introduced by Chris Tucker. I am a first-class accessibility nerd. My face is imposter syndrome. There is nothing else that can describe my face. It's kind of a grimace. But it's also the most important thing that you can do is bring accessibility, the power of technology, to main stages so that people know the work that is happening. They come with us on that journey. They not just use the good stuff, but they help us as we go forward. So let me turn to Laura and see if there's any questions, and know that I popped a few quick links. If you've got any thoughts, any lessons learned that you've got, and I've also added the link to our support desk, both Disability Answer Desk, DAD, and our Enterprise Disability Answer Desk. If you have any area where you ever need support, this was actually one of my first efforts in accessibility, was building the support team nearly 9 years ago. And it's there for you at any time. Thank you.
Great, really great talk, Jenny, very inspiring. We have a ton of really good questions in the chat, so I'm gonna jump into them.
Do it.
So the first question is, a lot of companies are focused on DE&I, so diversity and inclusion efforts, and they see inclusive design and accessibility as the same, putting accessibility under that inclusion umbrella. What are your thoughts on this new trend?
Yeah, no, I'm seeing that too. And over the years, I think it's ebbed and flowed as to where accessibility sits. And I think it's one of the first questions I get is, where do you sit? I actually think in many ways, there are pros and cons of any team that you're a part of. The team that I am, it's not part of engineering. It's not part of HR. But I sit 2 clicks from CEO. I'm in an empowered team. It's a team that is respected and has authority across the company for setting guidance. When people see an email from this division, they pay attention. And I can have people experts. We have deep partnership with HR. In fact, some of my team is actually funded by HR, but hosted by my team. And I have deep experts from engineering. So for me, it works like, this is way better. It is, it's about the ecosystem and we're in the right place. For other companies, being in HR might be the right construct. I think it's about how you're architecting your team, what skills you need, and whether or not you can build the partnerships and collaborations to be able to achieve those goals.
Awesome, great, thank you so much. Moving on here, we have another question that asks, how should we approach leadership when we see their approach to accessibility is going in the wrong direction?
So my dad told me this. My dad being a teacher, my mom was a teacher as well, because I do kind of put my glasses a little bit down my nose, like Professor McGonagall, and I go into teacher mode. That's our job. And I do think that I am teacher first. I also hold accountable. So ultimately, I'm not responsible for the shipping of Windows. I don't own Windows code. I'm not responsible for Windows, but I am accountable for accessibility for the company. So if I see a leader going down the wrong path, I educate first, I hold accountable second. And so that may be, hey, are you aware? And I'll walk them through whatever I need to walk them through. And then I say, hey, if you make this decision, here is the consequence, impact, or potential risk of that. And if I disagree with their answer, I may take further steps. Because ultimately, they're then taking business risks that may impact my customers, our customers. So teacher first, and I do think glasses down noses are very powerful.
Great, thank you so much. I think we have time for one more question here. So do you have any tips for how companies early on in their accessibility journey can move beyond not only a central accessibility team, but how they can add subject matter experts throughout their teams?
Yeah, it's always important to have a model where you do have subject matter experts, but also aligned with business and skill and area. So again, depending on how your company is built, the way that we've seen this evolve here at Microsoft, because it's grown, we have a large contingent of people here working on accessibility. How that's grown has been based on business need aligned with the goals of accessibility. So I'll give a couple of examples where that sprung up. On the people side with hiring, we saw that there was a need to invest in more of a disability talent broker. We began to get a ton of resumes from individuals with disabilities. And so we invested there to help us to triage those, to encourage and make sure that the pathways were good. We've also seen that happen on the more of the technical side of the house, where we've seen just captioning growth in the last 2 years utterly go skywards. Understandably, virtualization and the needs of the deaf, hard of hearing community, that required us to invest more in bringing in people who are subject matter experts in how to make communications platforms even more accessible for deaf, hard of hearing. And so combination, I think, of really the subject area, the discipline, the skill needs, but also aligning that with accessibility. I know that one of my jobs is to help elevate and make sure that the leadership understand the opportunity they have in front of them. And so that's always a big conversation. And I will say, no matter how many people you have, never enough, which is why training is always really important.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Jenny. It's been a fabulous session. It went by so quickly, but I want to thank you again for your time, and I hope people will connect with you and your team and the great work that you're doing offline. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Well, thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of the event, folks. And just, it's a real honor to be here. Have a great one.